Voice out twice. If you hear my voice, say Viva la Revolution. Viva la Revolution. So yes, to your point, I just revealed myself. I used to be a teacher many years ago with the young people. It was a long, long time ago, and that was my whole stick to get the students to calm down. And by the core of me, I am still Mr. Aramis. So I really appreciate you acknowledging that. Well, welcome. I am Aramis Malachi Toure Sundiata, and I am the executive director of the People's Justice Project. I referenced earlier that we came into existence based off of the murders of African people, black people in the United States from Mike Brown, John Crawford, et cetera, et cetera. Before that, I was a student organizer with this org called Ohio Student Association, one of the founding members. And through that process, we did a lot of direct actions when it came to John Crawford. We occupied a police station for 3 days, did a 12-mile march. Tamir Rice, we definitely turned up. We took over city streets and all types of things. From there, in Columbus, Ohio in particular, we brought those type of skills to develop a new organization. Because in this city, at the time, I had a youth organization from Ohio Student Association called Youth Rise Up. You know, it's kind of generic, but they came up with it. So what are we gonna do? And so, you know, we were doing a lot of trainings at the time to explain what was happening in our communities. Because the young people were really confused, like, why are these African black people dying? So in the program, I would do a whole bunch of trainings and talk about racism in class and all that stuff, and they would go out there and protest with us and all that. But what happened, which we did not expect to happen, was that their parents started coming. So the parents started coming, and then, of course, one of my skills in our struggle is I am a teacher. So, like, one of my skills I bring to organizations, I teach a lot. And so the parents were coming outside and doing direct actions with us as well. And then we formed this thing called People Justice Project. So from there, we led a lot of direct actions in Columbus. One of the key moments was there was a murder here by the name of Henry Green. He was murdered by police. What up? Killbus in the house here. He was murdered by police, Columbus police, and we did a few direct actions, and we ended up targeting the prosecutor and the city council because there were policies in place that allowed him to get murdered. And through that process, we won. Before defund police was a thing, we did that shit here. And so, through the leadership of our organization, also we won a Band of Jump Out Boys campaign. So the Jump Out Boys, if you're black, you kind of know this. Like in our neighborhoods, the pigs would show up and just jump out and get you. Stop and frisk in New York. Well, that's how Henry was murdered. So they ended that program that year. So from there, I had a break because I was extremely exhausted and I was extremely isolated. Because part of the work that we do, especially when you have people believing that they can change their condition, something happens to you. And so I remember specifically really sad and really depressed and really going through it for real. Level of trauma we experienced. I mean, I know a lot of people in this city never saw the police actually attack you. You know, we had young people, students, 16, 18, 27-year-old people, and the police are literally with horses attacking them in broad daylight. But Nelson was talking about tear gas. Tear gas stings. And we had that here in the city during that time period. Rubber bullets. You already know. You know what I'm saying? Rubber bullets, they sting. They ain't gonna kill you, but it can change the way you think about things. Because in our struggle, I went to my professors and they said to me that it's a river of no return. So once you're in it, there's a level of commitment that comes with it. And some of us make decisions in our lives to continue. And so most people, I think you talked to Don. Don told our leader, our organizer, that your executive director is probably the most disciplined and committed people I know, which is, I mean, they ain't lying. You know what I mean? I love the struggle. I think about it every day because part of it is when you see that you can change your conditions and you know people are begging for it, you get obsessed with knowing that you can, people are there and they have the right to change their reality. And I've seen it so many times where like I had a person once who was afraid to take the street once. Never forget it, Caitlin. I don't know. Let's go. We out here now. You know what I mean? Like, she came out there and I watched her change immediately. She was one of our main leaders after that. You know, I've seen people really hone their skills, whatever it is. It can be, you know, the person that likes to community organize in the community, build like the basketball tournaments, be an organization. That's their contribution to struggle. The people who like to cook, bring in the food, they have to cook in the organization to contribute to it. We have researchers who is amazing at researching and can dig in because that's a contribution. And I honestly feel that in our struggle, in our organization, this is what we can contribute. But this discussion is going to go in. A lot of my book is, I wrote a book. A lot is from my book, and I just made this yesterday, so bear with me because I don't remember what the hell I was talking about at the time. But I was really pissed off when I wrote this book. But if it's jargon, please let me know. I'm an academic. You know what I'm saying? I say funny things like colonialism and patriarchy and stuff like that. You know, so like if this gets kind of in the weeds, please let me know. But yes, ma'am. Please pronounce your name. Aramis. Okay. Aramis, son of Darrow from the land of Brooklyn, New York. Yeah, so this discussion is going, what is power? What is revolutionary discipline? And what is commitment and struggle? Okay? So I'm going to play a clip here. Oh, shit. Never heard of it. What is your name? I'm worried about what my name is. Two witnesses saw Brother Johnson guarding the FBI. I think so. You on?
break it up. You got what you wanted.
No, I'm not satisfied. To the hospital.
We're not doing it for cheerleaders. And
We demand.
intro we cut. Mm.
All right, okay. Now let's disperse this mob.
Mm. Mm-mm. There's this part there that's kind of funny to me.
What about you, Russ?
I don't know what this is. Where there's a part in the that cuts off there where there's a young man who I know we all have had this experience once, just like because they know us never saw that much power before, and later on in the film you see him get organized into the Nation of Islam. Has anyone ever seen that before?
Yes.
No, that's right. Why I use that, I'm going to ask a question in a second, but why I use that, because as a young man, I saw that for the first time. I was like, yo. I didn't know what I was watching. I thought it was Denzel Washington. I thought Denzel Washington really was Malcolm X for a long time. But that literally changed my trajectory in my life. I mean, hiccups there and there, robbing, stealing, that stuff. But, so what did we see? What did we see in this film first? Anyone can pop up. What did we see here? Yes, ma'am.
Discipline.
Yes.
And organizing. Or unity, I would say.
Unity. Anyone else? Who said that? I know that's right. Power, unity, community. Yes, accountability. What's that? Oh, say that again. I know that's right. God damn it. Fearless. Resistance. Some of y'all been trained. Some of y'all come from organizations. Anything else to add here? Persistence.
Prepared negotiators too.
I know that's right. Organized. Right on. With that said, can we take a few minutes to write down, or 2 minutes? You have phones, right? No, the young people don't write anymore, unless but you know, they have the phones nowadays. You know, plug your phone, take a piece of paper. I would take 2 minutes here to write down your definition of power and commitment. Please. We are disciplined organizers here, so we're going to literally time that. We're about 30 seconds here, and from now on, when we raise our hand or speak out, let's say our names and organizations we're a part of, if you don't mind, or where you're from. Yes. No. 2 minutes. So yesterday was leg day, and my knees kind of started like going up my legs. So if I'm limping, that's why. Squats gets you. So anyone want to contribute to this discussion by giving their definition of what power and commitment is? Please. Yes, ma'am. What's your name? Imani? Right on.
So I said, power is the ability to influence others to do what you believe is right. Commitment is the drive to accomplish the goals you have set for yourself. And I would define both as the ability to change the trajectory of history or fate by having pursuing your goals with like-minded individuals.
Well, my train's over. I can just go right on. Anybody else want to add on? You and you, ma'am. You go ahead.
I'm not here with an organization, but I'm an Ohio State student. I think power and commitment would be strength and influence that comes from like sustained community organization and engagement with like the struggle over time. Like works towards like collective.
It's easier than I thought. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I put power is to understand what power is, where it comes from, how it is used to benefit the purpose you are attempting to present to your audience, being committed to your purpose and sharing it with others.
I know that's right. What's your name?
I'm sorry, Andrew Baker Cooper.
Miss Baker? Right on, Kufa. Oh, you're Cincinnati.
Yes, sister.
Right on.
Okay, so
Oh, OHIO, Ohio State, I guess, Go ahead.
I said power is knowing you have the right to exist in this world based on your sole existence, and that you have the right to take up space even when others try to make you feel small. Commitment is holding this truth despite challenges placed in your path and upholding your ethics and morals in the face of adversity. I would say my definition was less to do with other people and more to do with how you see yourself. Because I don't think power comes from how other people see you.
Yes.
It comes from how you hold yourself in space with other people.
Yes. Can I piggyback off of that? Because oftentimes, I know we talk about power as a philosophical thing in our struggle, but like most of the time, we have to take power to just show up and take up space and be unforgiving about who we are, period. And so in our organization, I make sure that we show up black as fuck, unforgiving, and sloppy as hell. We need to. Because too many times in our society, and growing up as Africans, we are told that we have to fit in some type of mold. I refuse. I'm okay. You're the one with the problem. You heard? Thank you for adding that on. Anybody else want to go? You, and then you. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Lisa. I'm an artist. I said power is embodying and acting on your truth, and commitment is practice and action, staying the course is learning and change.
Right on. Right on.
Okay, I want to piggyback on what you said and what you said. Thank you. I am Renee Taylor. I am an entrepreneur, speaker, coach, and multifaceted artist, and the founder of the Lightest Poetry Movement. I'm from Jersey, though.
Jersey.
But I do live around the corner from here.
I know that's right.
Lesson for this sister, as she mentioned about like stepping into it, walking in, I said power is to assume it, to step into it. Power is to perceive the influence you have and utilize it for good instead of evil. Power is to lead and to assemble others for a common cause and a mission. Power is to embody love for the people in the community and want the best for everybody and for the good. And then the timer went off. So commitment, all I have is staying the course.
Right on. That's a Facebook comment right there. You know what I mean? No, that's powerful though. I want to share that, John. You know what I mean? I'm sharing that. Anybody from Freedom Block want to give a definition of power? Kappa, go ahead, brother.
Definition of power is organization, unity. It's also to be influence, but also to be manipulation. Money, resources. These are all different types of power. We have three understanding of power: power with, power under, and power over. Those are the main three things that is consistent of power. And I just believe the commitment is to stay focused on the set goal and mission.
Period.
That's my main. The last question you asked.
Right on. You know, Capo told me to ask that for y'all to make sure y'all's on point. It wasn't me. You know. Can we move on here? Anybody else want to add? In the People Justice Project, we define power this way. Power, I think you hit on it, is a capacity to control the course of history, to enact collectively, including the decisions and actions of others. It is a joining of wills, which in turn strengthens the potential that to the move the masses that perceive themselves as powerless. I believe Brianna earlier mentioned this a little bit about one of our tasks that we're confronted with as people who care about change, people who care about impacting others, is that we often come in contact with folks who feel powerless. We have to be agents, in other words, to bridge that gap, to bring them into the fold as organizers. Because like we said earlier, no one's coming to save us. So we must save ourselves. In other words, we must free ourselves. Stay tuned for our Free Ourselves Fellowship coming up in the fall. As the young people like to say.
Oh, gosh.
I'm learning from the young lady here. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Forgot about this part. Yeah, so my father, many years ago, you know, he had no idea what we were doing as activists or organizers. Like, he's out there and he's not committing crime, so he must be doing something positive. He didn't know what we were doing outside, but one day I came home from Cleveland, and he actually asked me, he's like, when you say Black Power, what do you mean? I've been hearing that all these years, but I never knew what it meant. I'm like, oh, baby, I got you. So this is it. So when we define Black Power in this comparison to the same thing of power before, this is what we mean when we say Black Power. When we are discussing the concept of Black Power, we simply mean we are engaging in a historical process for self-determination, independence, and freedom over our own Black lives. In contrast with something called Black Lives Matter. I think Brianna said it earlier. Black Power matters. Period. You have a demand in it already. As a whole people, we are contending with historical forces that have defined our existence, such as enslavement and colonialism. Join our Black as Fuck study group on Fridays. This reality is what informs our demands and ultimately our struggle for liberation. In other words, power is the ultimate equalizer. There is no question in our organization about the question of the concept of equality. Equal to what? Colonialism, slavery, genocide, what else? Reproductive rights being taken. ICE coming to our communities. I mean, I don't want to be equal to that at all. You see. You see what I'm saying?
She said education.
Education, all of it. All these things of forms of equality is a primary question of equal to what and whom. I do not want to be equal to my oppressor. If we'll further on with this discussion in a second, this is why we say Black Power. It's not integrated power. It's Black Power, plain and simple. You can join it or you can't. Point blank. Hope this makes sense. Because we understood a long time ago that defining our struggle as a struggle against racism is ideologically foundation of colonial mode of production. In other words, racism is a colonial invention that originated from enslavement and colonialism of Africans in Africa that gave birth to capitalism simultaneously to the European nation. And rather than defining a system for what our oppression is, racism accepts that and denies that us as a people and others their own identity and dignity. Every time we discuss racism, immediately you bring whiteness into conversation. Immediately. So we are talking about power. Because winning acceptance has never been the goal. And sometimes it keeps us ideologically backwards, where we're actually trying to perfect our own oppression. In other words, we're struggling against systems. In the film, Malcolm is walking down the street. He's not saying stop being racist to me. Is he? No. He is confronting colonial institutions that is called the state, the police, and demanding that he see Brother Johnson. African people and all colonized people around the world are struggling for self-determination. The Islam had nothing to do with it. In our study group, we walk down through enslavement, and you see our people and others who are only struggling for freedom and self-determination. This is what our study shows us. So we're trying to define it this way so as we can engage with, what's this guy named Donald Trump? He is just the present representation of colonial forces with the mask off. You see? Before, they were fooling the people. We were just outside the other day talking about like our whole existence since we were kids has been war. My father and his family, my father's generation are from the back end of the African Revolution when they used tactics like COINTELPRO to remove us from our communities. And then they were coercing our people while they're dumping drugs in our community. Literally. I remember it. They shoot propaganda in our communities to make us hate each other for what? This is not a question of racism. It's a question of systemic colonial oppression in our communities. So if Donald J. Trump is a new representative of the Moscow, let's go get him then. I mean, you're right there. Right, Brian? But the primary question is, how do we build organizational discipline? Because this determines everything. How disciplined is your cadre? How disciplined is your structure? How rigid is your practice? I oftentimes say in my study, in my practice, live a life of predictability. Because you know exactly my discipline. You know exactly what I'm doing in every given moment. Become that disciplined. I'm up in the morning, 3 o'clock, go work out, do some notes, do some emails, hit up Nelson. What's up, son? Go home. Wife wakes up. Hey. By the time everyone else wakes up, I done did 16 emails already. Make breakfast. Ronnie hits me up. You live a life of predictability and discipline. Because you have to lead that way when you lead people. Where does this all come from? I think Freedom Block was kind of addressing this. We're going to hit this real quick. Discipline and also organization and power comes from organized people, ideas, and organized resources. Because every organization has one. But we have to build enough people power and strength and rigid cadre because they are attacking us. In other words, I just put this here because I had an hour, but I can go further with it. This is how organizations are built. There's my mom, Justice Fatai Kaya Young. That was the first time she came outside for a demonstration. It was adorable. It was fun. My dad was there too. He was like, I want to see too. I want to be about the movement. You know, she's adorable. Anyway, but what is revolutionary discipline? Without revolutionary discipline, there can be no unity of will. Who said will? Unity earlier. Did you say unity? You say unity? Without revolutionary discipline, there can be no unity of will. Without unity of will, there can only be no unity in action. Without unity in action, you cannot have unity in thought. So when you see Malcolm in the Nation of Islam, I don't know if y'all knew that was an organization, but that's Nation of Islam. The thing that was extremely unique about that org is because they were extremely rigid and disciplined. I don't think there's been an org like that. Still to this day, it's probably the most disciplined, rigid org. Because of that unity in action, unity of thought, they were able to strike fear in the colonial ruling class in such a way that they not only attacked them, but indeed they coerced a lot of the members to go against Brother Malcolm. That's how big of a threat it was. We can go all day about the philosophies and whatever, but the core of it all, unity of will, unity in action, unity of thought. That's when you become a threat. So you have a lot of activisty folks right now running around here, bless their hearts, but running around and making up some type of romanticization of our struggle. And when we know that once these three things are aligned, that's when you become a threat. Not when you're just chasing down an issue. It's when the organization is so organized and the masses are so collectively in power, that's when you become a threat. People Justice Project had that happen many times. And so I oftentimes tell the young people like Brown and others that it's almost disrespectful, if not the most disrespectful thing you can say to me, to play with it. Because we've had nooses dropped over our office. Our friends have been shot at. We've had surveillance for real. And all of that. When we talk about commitment, You have to cross a line, whether you're for the people or not for the people. This ain't nothing to play with. I'm not saying more than likely it's not going to happen to you, but when you've experienced it, please don't play with me. See what I'm saying? We have a whole legacy of African people being slaughtered, murdered, just chasing freedom. From Africa to Latin America to Ferguson, Columbus. Does that make sense? Commitment. Again, we say, the primary task of revolutionaries is to create the revolutionary instrument and organization to govern ourselves. That requires us to be disciplined and have the capability to lead by following the masses. In order to prepare for the struggle of the future, it is necessary to assimilate the lessons of the past. Does this make sense? I know this is like a bunch of jargon. It's all in my head. And for the most of us, that is an illicit relationship. Most of us, it has been the consequence of being colonized in our community. Yes, sir.
I want to lift up what you're calling for is so contradictory to the way that organizations operate right now. Like and I do this, I'm guilty of this. I'm back here like, why is Aramis convicted like this? Because there are places where I create the bar as low as possible for people to be in or involved or part, because I'm afraid if I lift up that bar, nobody's going to come. And you're calling us to really elevate not just our personal discipline, but our organizational discipline.
Yes.
Which is very contrary to the way, like,
we must push the people. Period. We have seen time and time again that with the people are feeling powerless. We have to push them to a level because they're conscious of the shit. Like, we go on the block all the time, and the cheapest commodity on the block is ideas. I can go to the bodega right now on the corner, and everybody's talking shoulda, coulda, woulda. What is pushing you away from absorbing those folks into organizations that struggle with the ideas and build it? What are you doing that's so important that you want to look at your brother in the face and be like, nah, I'm good, son? When you know, like the sister Rob was talking about, they're taking our health care. Oh, it's all good. Get yours, baby. I'm going to get mine. We do not have the privilege to do that. I've seen mothers whose loved ones and sons have been shot by the police. I gotta look that mother in the face, knowing full well that she is trusting this organization to lead struggle. I don't have the privilege to say, I'm not gonna push the people. She's saying, I want justice. What the fuck you think I'm gonna do? Just play with it? When I've studied so much? No. You think Malcolm was sitting there like, well, you know, freedom can wait. No. Discipline. We have to build cadre. And that's where I'm at, Nelson. Because when we were writing this, there was a position where we needed clarity. And we can develop the new society. We are literally in a revolutionary period. No cap. You see Latin America on fire. You see West Africa. You see Europe trying to save itself. The United States is abandoning Europe as we speak. The social world order internationally is in chaos. We have to prepare ourselves for the shovel, to bury it. And it's only going to be us to do it. Period. I hope this makes sense. Because when we are addressing revolution, discipline, and struggle, it's primarily a contest of opposing ideas. You have the so-called right and the left in this country, and then you got us, revolutionaries. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all about the ideas competing with political and social systems. We must make a commitment to engineer and struggle to create advanced revolutionary theory, and at the precondition to overthrow spontaneity or turning behind events, and even issue-based campaigns. Let's properly understand this. Issue-based campaigns are to absorb the people. That is not the end-all be-all. Period. So what the students right now, SB1, right? That is literally to absorb the people into something and give them a fight so that you know they can win something. Or be able to see the so-called petty bourgeoisie and how they actually operate. That's the only way you can advance the struggle. Because oftentimes, I think we're having a discussion over there where like people just lackadaisical. Our job as organizers is to bring them into the political arena. And again, that's why we say the movement is nothing, the revolution is everything. Every 5 minutes of the movement. You can go on ABC6 right now and be like, see a commercial about cologne or something. The Calvin Klein movement. Everything's a movement. We have to move away from the terms and just say it for what it is. When did we stop saying this? I'll wait. We're trying to move away from the real language. It's okay to be revolutionary, baby. It's all right. Because when I was in Latin America, they were not confused. Period. Hope this makes sense. Remember, it's all coming to my head, this talking. But I really feel this. Because great Marcus Garvey told us this a long time ago. Organization, the great power in directing the affairs of a race or nation towards a given goal. To properly develop the desires that are utmost. You must first find a system or method. That's it. And there is none better than organization. Does this resonate? Again, to wage effective struggle, the organization must first identify and be clear who the principal our enemy and target is, the principal representative or agent of colonialism in our communities. Let's not be afraid to say it. Like, white folks, don't be afraid to say it. Like, don't be afraid to say it. Colonialism is a mode of production. Our comrades from OWA, right? I did a training with them once. I was in a discussion with Rhiannon. And when I discuss colonialism, we're discussing about foreign occupying forces. All the way to your body. It's not just the state. So, feel me? If they're trying to take reproductive justice rights away from you, that's colonialism. Stop playing with me. All the way down to your body as a mode of production. We know as Africans, we had whole places in the market where our sisters will be sitting there producing bodies for the mode of production. This is what they do inside of colonialism. Let's not be afraid to just say it. Come on. Right, Brian? Make it plain. And they're right there down the street. Like when you see regular people, working class people, identify their prosecutor or their city council person and realize that motherfucker lying to you, and they right there, watch that change happen. They regular, and they not as smart as us. They remove their self-community. In fact, they make decisions to oppress our communities. But the question of behind the aisle, whatever these people talk about, principles. Because what governs the world is not a question of flowery suggestions. Peace, love. That's their word. We're revolutionaries here. Can't go getting along. You know what I'm saying? No, they try to coerce us. No. The world is governed by power. And it's not negative. We're going to go into that in a second. We have to move from this piece, idealism and metaphysics. In other words, if your position cannot be made material, then it's worthless. My dad's a preacher, right? And yeah, he's good too. And one thing I learned from him is that he always talked about God, right? He never talked about Jesus. You know what I mean? He was like, there's something in the spirit realm that like had me make certain choices while I was a young man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He doesn't argue that God doesn't exist. He's saying like, that's the spirit. We're Africans. We're a spiritual people. We can't deny that. I think Secretary Ray talks about it in his book, Africa on the Move. But idealism and this thing of accepting destruction for where they are. While they're bombing us. They bomb what? Move. They wanted peace. They shot us in the street. They always shoot in the street. But, so can we go here? Can we operate in the world of power? Can we go here? I'm about to go. Again, what we're saving for, if your philosophy is not something that can be made material, it is worthless. This is what distinguishes us as revolutionaries from philosophical idealists and pseudo-intellectuals who would spend a whole bunch of time talking about nonsense without basing on objective reality. For example, we just discussed over there that Donald J. Trump is enacting these type of policies. That's real. It's not God. It's not some spiritual entity. It's literally a signing of a paper. So what we have to do is combat it. That is an antagonistic relationship. But the beautiful thing about that relationship is that we always fucking win. You see? We destroyed slavery. It took us 400 something years, but we did it. Africa was free in what, 1956? After 1884? We did it. Latin America. One revolution. Cuba in the 60s. Venezuela. It happens. We're going to win. It's about how strong and how your commitment is. So can we take a second to write down, what do you think about when you hear the word power? What do you like to be? Would you like to be known as powerful? And why does it serve people in power for us to have a negative connotation of power? Let's take 2 minutes here. Is that cool? Oh, 5 minutes left. Never mind. Just struggle with it. Because of time. My bad. Yeah. Because we're going to go back to it. Join an organization. You have this training in Block. We have the training here at Columbus. Just stay. We got it. We ain't going nowhere. But the primary thing is here, comrades. Self-determination is an independent organization, the highest form of democracy. We're building power to govern ourselves and our affairs being the overarching goal. Where we can have the freedom to produce and reproduce life, which ultimately grows from the spirit, as Africans, and the souls of the masses organized. I mean, there it is. Because, like we just suggested earlier, It is becoming increasingly clear the crisis of the ruling system is plunging to a new level of deterioration. This is a critical point in history. We must be inspired to intensify our struggle. We must reestablish our position for self-determination and governance over our own lives. We must reaffirm the people in mass action that freedom is coming tomorrow. Period. I don't wake up doubting that. I wake up freedom of my mind every day. Right, Brianna?
Yeah.
I call it, yo, you was on freedom of my mind. So what is your commitment to struggle? What is your commitment? What organization are you joining? Because our everyday thoughts must be about freedom. Revolution is something that's not saved for a rainy day. If we are to be victorious, which we must breathe the struggle of freedom. Our thoughts, when we wake up in the morning, must be about self-determination. Our last thoughts should be about liberation. The thought of freedom should be manifested throughout our daily lives, in our work, in our personal lives. This is the mantra and commitment and continuous struggle forwards to freedom and self-determination. So please, take time to think. Join an organization. It may not be the ones that's here. We know everybody. I've been around for about 12 years. I need a real job. But you may not be PJP, you may not be Freedom Bloc. There's a lot of orgs doing great work in our state. We just happen to be the illest, I'm just saying. But struggle with this because, again, freedom is coming tomorrow. We have to believe that. Any questions, comments, concerns to this discussion? Yes, ma'am.
What is the first step? Because I actually just approached a sister, I think she was from community something out of LA. I think it was Apple. And I said, I live around the corner here. And although I'm not an Ohioan and I haven't been here for a long time,
Right on.
I do want to know, okay, what is my next step as a female, as an artist, as a Black female? You know what I'm saying? Like, what can I do next? What can we do before we leave here?
Brianna, what's our next thing we have?
So what? Our next thing?
Yes.
So we have our study group April 11th. If you want to be on our mailing list, please sign here.
We'll start at the table.
Okay, yeah.
Step one.
Tanisha, what else do we have?
Let's see. Study groups on Fridays. We have a research team as well.
Oh, where the research team at?
Yeah, I think two.
Woo, woo!
So you can join that in person and there's virtual things too.
Yeah.
Here. Definitely join the mailing list. We always try to uplift other orgs and the work that they're doing. So like Aaron said, there's a place for you somewhere. And also as an artist, think about your talents. Like I do marketing. I came in PJP as like, okay, you need somebody to do social media. Cool. I can do that. But now
Psych.
I'm an organizer. And I do work for other organizations and mission. So if art is you, use what your talent and what you have for the movement. I know how to do comms, so that's my role. We all have a role, so just figuring out.
Yes.
Aaron, please tell us where to buy your book.
And that's the thing. It's not in. Yeah, that's right. COVID. Blame the pandemic. We are writing a new one with a new analysis of the global conditions currently, and also watching our young people in action right now. I realize I'm close to being a elder, but they call me a veteran. But like I'm watching them now, I'm like, yo, y'all crazy. Like y'all got so much enthusiasm. I want to be like that one day again. Because I oftentimes say to the young folks, it's like I wish I could go back the first time I had a sense of it. You know what I mean? Like the excitement of it, like how you're just doing some shit. You know what I mean? Like knocking on doors. Yeah, man, you want to join? You know what I'm saying? Like that feeling of being a part of something, that first step in the journey. I would give it all just for like 2 days that feeling. But here we are. Old man talking about revolution. You know what I'm saying? But yes. Is there anything else? Can I have everybody stand up?
I just want to speak on the fact that you mentioned how you feel like with your age, it's like, oh, I missed that opportunity, that window of opportunity. I once struggled with that, but I am reminded by the members in the community, my family members, that now is the time.
Oh yes, yes.
And we never miss we never will miss a moment to leave the market.
Right.
So if you were serious about the age, and anybody else in here feels like my age, your age will interfere with you being able to get out and do backwards and cartwheels.
Yeah.
And please don't let that.
No
be
way.
the reason why you don't.
No way.
Extend that hand and help the community.
Our organization in Cincinnati, see my look, see Debbie's look, there's a lot of us like this. So one of the reasons why I came was to find out how the generation in the 21st century feels about power and see how you all have shifted the power from when we were growing up in the 60s and the 70s and how you all are becoming more involved. Because that's what we're trying to do in Cincinnati, get our youth more involved so they can carry on the work that we're doing. We may not be able to get out on protest, but we can sure push you on. We can be your, what they say, your wind beneath your wings or whatever.
I know that's right. I need to lift it up.
Now he's so out here. He said, I feel double bad because I get up every day. You know,
And he's my age, so.
he's still good.
Good to see you. I was like, did you? Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I was going to make one comment.
Yes.
As someone who I felt like, I'll admit, like a very organizing space, and admittedly for my own self-preservation, which is not always the greatest thing when you're trying to be a part of a revolution, but I think there's a very fine line between knowing your power and knowing what you can contribute to a revolution, and then also taking up space when you don't need to be taking up space. And I think you should constantly, everybody, and I'm not even putting this specifically on one group of people, but that should be a question you always kind of have in the back of your mind, is that you need to have, like, you need to know you are capable of things without also feeling like you need to be in control of everything. You gotta humble yourself to being a listener when you really want to speak up sometimes. And again, that's a fine line, because like you need to speak up, but it's also very important to know when to listen and humble yourself to an experience that you might not necessarily have, but you can feel passion about. So I don't know if that makes sense. That's a question I often have to challenge myself in. But yeah, that's just the final comment for me.
Thank you for contributing. I'm just happy to see you.
Yeah, happy to see
You too. Anything else? We have time? We have time.
Also, feel free to get a sticker and buttons up here if you want.
Usually at the end of our discussions. Repeat after me. You ready? I am somebody. And I deserve liberation. Right here. Right now. I am somebody. And I deserve liberation. Right here. Right now. All power to the people. All power to the people. Thank you all for coming.